Hi, everybody. Justin Vasquez here to talk to you about Mesker Hollow Metal. I know that we already had our Training Tuesday event, but I wanted to be able to showcase the hollow metal frames, the hollow metal doors, and do the production and be able to give that to you so that way you can pass that along to your customers and that sort of thing. So I'm here again. We're going to do the recording, and I hope that it's helpful. So let's begin. So, Mesker Hollow Metal, as we discussed in our Training Tuesday meeting, is a hollow metal company that's been around for a very long time. This company has been around for about 150 years now, actually about 156 years to be exact. And they've come a long way since their start in 1864. They started in 1864 in St. Louis, Missouri. The Mesker brothers worked as iron workers with their father. Their father was an iron worker, and Mesker brothers branched off and wanted to start something a little bit different. So they created a metalworking facility, and over time, they started making hollow metal storefronts. Those storefronts have been widely known around the United States. All the way up until today, actually, as world famous. They won awards in 1904 and things like that for those hollow metal storefronts. And it's just a company that's been able to provide something that is a little bit different than you're used to seeing. So I'm not going to go through the timeline per se, but I will hit on some highlights. If you look at 1996, Mesker decided to build a brand new 155,000 square foot facility. That is growing from a facility that was probably 20,000 square feet, I believe. In St. Louis, Missouri, they built a 155,000 square foot facility, and they did that so that way they could provide hollow metal storefronts to customers across the United States. They later went on to build distribution centers in Florida, Alabama, California, Texas, and now Arizona. They did that through the early 2000s, the late 2000s. They purchased a company called Design Hardware to where they could start providing a different type of market value than any other hollow metal manufacturer that is compared to them. They also started up Wood Door Express and that sort of thing. But this company is STI certified, and you know they, unlike many other companies out there, they don't just provide material that meets STI standards. They're actually STI certified, and so they're never going to make that claim. And that STI certification means quite a bit, especially with testing for tolerances, testing for twist, bow, and other defects and things like that. And so having that STI certification means not only that you have a certification behind you, it also means that your products have been tested in a rigorous way, so that way they can perform for you when needed. So we'll go through and we'll watch this short video that talks about STI, what that certification is, what it means, and that sort of thing.
Doors are one of the few components of a building that people are constantly in contact with, and often provide the first impression of a building. Many of them are in use all day long. The fact is, some manufacturers make better ones than others. Choosing quality doors and frames helps ensure they look good and perform well for many years to come. Specifying to ANSI and STI standards is a great first step. But how do you know which products actually meet those standards? To ensure architects receive the quality of product they specify, the Steel Door Institute has developed an industry certification called STI Certified. The manufacturers with this certification are audited to verify their manufacturing processes consistently produce quality products. Their steel meets ASTM industry standards. The fabrication, finishing, and physical endurance comply with ANSI and STI standards. Many of the most respected steel door and frame manufacturers are now STI certified. They make standard, custom, and specialty products available in 50 states and around the world. Architects can specify STI certified and know that the doors and frames in their buildings will be built to last.
You know, what does that mean as far as STI certification and that sort of thing? And basically, STI is going to mean that those products are tested, they're reliable, and they're going to hold that backing from the Steel Door Institute that shows that they are quality. So some of the members of STI are very familiar to you. Some of the also obloy companies that you'll find out there, such as Seco, Curry's, Security Metal Products, and then there's also Allegiant products out there, which includes Steelcraft. But there are also some no-name or smaller companies out there that are STI certified that we primarily see in the South, but they're also up here, and those are going to be Dean Steel, DCI, Republic, Pioneer, and MPI. All these companies meet that STI certification, and they are joined with companies that Dormakaba has, which is Mesker and Holomoto Express. Some of the non-STI members that are in our region that are pretty notable are going to be companies like DKS and Daybar and GH Holomoto, Gen Steel Doors. Those companies claim that they have the same standards as STI, but they don't meet, or they aren't certified by STI. So it's not the same thing, and that means that you're not getting the same quality. And if they are claiming that they're giving you the same quality, why not go and get certified? So earlier I was talking about Wood Door Express, Holomoto Express, and Design Hardware. Let's dig into that a little bit when we're talking about the go-to-market strategy and their sales strategy. Go-to-market or speed to market. What does that mean? You know, in a very dumbed down way, which I'm not trying to say that I'm speaking to anyone that's dumb, but in a dumbed down way, speed to market means how can I serve you in the fastest way possible? And the only way that I know to do that is by delivering a product to you as fast as I can. And not only delivering a product that's quality, but also, you know, going to give you all products that are quality and reliable in your market. So that way you can deliver it to your customer and they can know that you're giving them a quality product. Their strategic distribution philosophy, they want to build partnerships. They want to build partnerships not only in the distribution channel, but also in wholesale channel and things like that. So that way, everyone that works with them knows that they're not only getting quality, they're getting service as well. Their value chain is representatives and distributors. So there's great value in representation and distributorship, and they want to partner with those representatives and distributors to be able to serve you and be able to give you a quality product. So every one of these things that I'm going to say is exactly the same thing. But bottom line is, when we're talking about Mesker or Holomoto Express or Design Hardware or even Wood Door Express, they're going to offer you something that is more than any other manufacturer out there. You can't go to Allegiant and say, hey, I need to pick up a 3070 5 7/8 Holomoto frame, a 3070 flush with Holomoto door, a 3068 5 7/8 Holomoto frame, and then a 3068 wood door flush. And then I would like to pick up hardware for all those pieces, and I'd like to have them shipped in a bundle together and delivered to my customer direct. You're going to find that companies like Allegiant or our competitors out there, I shouldn't say names, but our competitors out there, they're going to be able to provide you hollow metal from one manufacturer, and they're going to be able to provide you hardware from another manufacturer, but not be able to provide you the wood doors that you needed. And then you go to another manufacturer that offers the same sort of hollow metal, wood door, and hardware to your front door. And where you used to be able to just get a wood door from them, that no longer can happen. So Dormakaba has the ability to give you all facets of your opening and give you a total opening all from one shop, and nobody else can do that. Some of their facilities and their capabilities in that speed to market setup is, if you look at this list down here, shows their Alabama facility, their Arizona facility, their Florida facility, and their Texas facility, and it shows what they distribute. If you look at Texas, Texas has their Mesker, all of Mesker's stocking products, such as your standard hollow metal frames, 4 7/8, 7 1/4, your flush doors, your 4070, your 3070, it's just your standard material. But then they also have hollow metal quick ship frame program, wood door express machine program, and I believe they also now have their, which it doesn't even show this on here, but they also have their hardware piece that's associated with this as well, especially Mesker out of Texas. So Mesker and Hollow Metal Express, what are the differences between the two companies? Mesker is going to be your contract house. Basically, it's going to have all of your stock materials, even if they're not providing those stock materials in 1 day or 2 days. If you have an order, a large contract order, that's going to require 20, 30, 40 frames or something along those lines, 20, 30, 40 doors, they're going to provide those in a standard lead time. And check with your factory or your local rep prior to placing that order to find out what those lead times are currently, because they are ever changing, especially now that we are opening up new branches and things like that. It's always going to be changing, so check with us prior to placing that order, so that way we can give you a reliable answer. Hollow Metal Express, on the other hand, they're going to be more of your custom house. There are some things that are changing internally right now, but right now they are your source for custom hollow metal. Mesker does custom hollow metal as well, but Hollow Metal Express is going to do your lead line doors, your stainless steel doors, your custom windows, your custom lights, and things like that. And they're going to be able to do those a lot faster than Mesker will. So what is the reason why we have both of those companies? Well, Mesker is going to be your competitive pricing. They're going to be your standard lead times and things like that. With Hollow Metal Express, you get that time, but with that time costs money. So you're going to be paying more money to get those frames. Even if they're standard frames, you're going to be paying more money, but you'll be able to get those in a faster amount of time than you would be able to if you were ordering them from the factory. Other manufacturers are very similar whenever it comes to that. So keep that in mind and make sure to give us a call prior to placing those orders. As far as specifications and things like that are concerned, Hollow Metal Express is more of a regional manufacturer, a custom hollow metal house. That's what they've been known for the amount of time that they've been in the market. They're regional, they're not nationally known and things like that, and they supply mostly to the Western and Arizona regions. Mesker, on the other hand, they're a national manufacturer. They're widely known and nationally known as a company that is superior to others. Mesker, I was saying this in our Training Tuesday meeting, but I'll say it again. Mesker is a company that, there's hidden Meskers across the United States, and there are actually websites out there dedicated that are non-brand associated of people that have an architectural background that are going out and looking for hidden Meskers, openings, hollow metal storefronts, and things like that that have been lost throughout the process. And so you really have architecture out there that's been around for 100, 150 years, and some of those hollow metal storefronts that are out there, those are Meskers. And so that's the name that they've started to become known for, Meskers. But Mesker and their hollow metal storefront is very special. So they're nationally known. They're in most specifications. If they're not in a specification, they're very easily written in. So let's talk about doors and how doors are constructed. I have a door sample here. I'm going to be switching screens and things like that, so bear with me. As you see, I'm grayed up, so technology sometimes is a problem, but we'll get through it as best we can. I'll switch back and forth so that way you guys can see me. Again, bear with me. So door construction. As Mesker will claim, they use a standard of 18 gauge hollow metal. They do have 20, 16, 14, and 12 gauge available in their doors. 20 gauge are going to be your low end commodity style door. 18 gauge is standard. It's going to be your standard interior hollow metal door. I would not suggest it for exterior use, but it does have a place at exteriors in strip malls and things like that. But most exteriors are going to use 16, 14, and then your extra heavy duty is going to be your 12 gauge. There's going to be very low instances when you're going to need a 12 gauge door, but I would say at bullet resistant openings, windstorm rated openings, tornado openings, things like that, you're going to see those openings there. Their standard is a cold rolled steel. They do offer an A40 and an A60 galvanized. Their primer is going to be a baked on rust inhibited primer, which is standard in the marketplace. And they do offer a 304 and a 316 stainless steel hollow metal door. The way that they build their doors is going to be the pan and lid design. It's a standard design. It's also a standard design across the marketplace. We're going to talk about a door called the NVS that is a little bit different in some later slides, but the standard one that we're going to talk about now is the pan and lid. And I'll show you how it's built in just a second. So the design of the door is an adaptable non-handed design, which is their standard. And what that means is it's square edged on both sides, and it is adaptable. So if you need to plunge through at your hinge pockets and things like that, you can switch the hand of that opening. They do have it plunged through already as part of their standard, so that way you can rehand it. But if you do have a situation where you have the door that is handed, then you can modify infield to make it work, just in case you have a situation where you wanted a right-hand door and you actually needed a left-hand door. They do offer a beveled hinge or a beveled lock edge and a beveled hinge edge. It's an option, and I believe it's 1/8 inch on 2. So looking at the pan and lid, you can see the bottom where it's bent. It's bent twice. So it's bent to create the lock edge or the hinge edge, and then it's bent again to receive the lid, and that's your stability point at the lid. You see at the bottom there, that's where they weld it together. It's tacked weld all the way down, sanded smooth and finished. They do have a unique closer reinforcement. So if you look at this closely, it's a 14 gauge standard reinforcement, but that closer reinforcement is a little bit different than you normally see on hollow metal doors. So if you look at the polystyrene that's around that hinge, that closer reinforcement, you notice that it has treads in it. And you notice at the closer reinforcement that the treads actually are opposite. So what that does is it provides more stability, not only with the closer reinforcement itself, but also you have stability from that tread. So it's not just a piece of material that's in there and stuffed in and welded on. So they have high frequency hinge reinforcements. These are made out of 7 gauge material. That high frequency reinforcement allows for the sag and things like that on the door. And so what that does is it creates a situation where if you have a heavy duty door and things like that, all the weights at the top of the door, this will allow you to hang that door and not worry about your hinge breaking or failing in the process. So this is where I'll change to the video. I'm going to show you a couple things, but please look at the inverted and the flush top cap, and then we'll take a look at it real quick. So, hey there, I'm back. So like I was saying, take a look at the top cap here. This right here shows a top cap, and if you take a look at it, you'll notice that that top cap has a hat channel at the very top, and that is this right here. And what that does is whenever you slide this on top of the door, and I actually have a sample of a door, when you slide this on top of this door here, like so, it creates a flush top. And I mean, honestly, like that. This door sample is going to be used for something totally different. So it's not the top of a door, but if you look at that hat, it on the edge of the door where that reinforcement is, it sits on it just like this to allow it to sit flush. And if you look at the sides here, this right here allows it to slip into the top of the door and then compress to the sides to where you can take this and install it into the top of the door, and no need for screws. You can put this on flush and you can leave it just as is, or you can dimple the top, screw it in, it'll be a screwed in top cap, or you can put this in and weld it or tack weld it and fill and sand smooth, just depending on what the specifications say. So that way you can have any type of top cap that you want. They also offered an inverted, and the inverted basically is the exact same thing as I just showed you, but that's the flush top. The inverted goes into the channel, so it creates that seal for the top of the door. They do still have the weep holes and things like that, so that way if there's water that ever gets inside and penetrates, you'll be able to release that through the door. But I wanted to show you this door right here. This is a polystyrene core, and forgive the messiness. This is an actual raw door that I picked up just yesterday, but I wanted to show you the top, so that way you can see the treads. And the reason that's important is those treads, there's a hot melt glue that connects that polystyrene to the face of the hollow metal frame. And even with that door being cut on and me putting a top cap on and things like that, that glue and that polystyrene does not move. The polystyrene can fail at the interior, but where that glue is and where that seal is, it's going to be there permanently. And it's a very unique process that they do. I think they're the only company that actually provides a shredded polystyrene, so they're pretty unique in that sense. But anyway, we'll go back and take a look more at the slideshow, but I wanted to show you all that. So we were just talking about cores, innovative core design. The tread core full polystyrene is their standard. As you can see, it's a diagonal tread polystyrene. They also offer a flat core polystyrene, and this is what you typically see in hollow metal doors. But the important thing is the hot melt PUR glue system for the strongest core bond that's available. Like I was saying earlier, it does not move. It's a very strong core. Let's take a look at some of the other cores that they offer. The HDP flat core polystyrene, that's going to be in your NVS core or your thermal rated openings. Your honeycomb core, which is a very, that's a commodity grade style core, but it's still offered as an option. We just don't use it hardly as much. The urethane core and also a fiber core. So if you have fire rated doors that you have to absolutely have urethane or fiber, we offer those. Our fire rated openings are put on with a Mylar label. They are certified with UL, Warnock Hersey, and Intertech. Some of the other people out there are only available in UL, Warnock Hersey, Intertech, one or the other. They're not rated with all of them. So the N series, which is what we've been talking about, that's your seam to edge door. It's a non-handed door. The N series, it meets the requirements of virtually any opening from sound deadening to energy. It meets and or exceeds ADA, ANSI, ASTM and SDI. Their fire rated openings are 20-minute up to 3-hour. And they use Mylar labels, and they also are certified with one courtesy and Intertech. They come with a lot of different standards, so depending on what your architectural plans say, they can do vision kits, they can do wood grain at exteriors or at apartments, they can do different types of panel designs if you need something more aesthetically pleasing than a flush hollow metal door. They also offered a BV1 or beveled edge design as an option. So if you do need a beveled edge, it's all provided the exact same way as the square edge. It's just bent a little bit differently. It's an 1/8 on 2 inches. It's built to meet or exceed ANSI. They offered them both beveled at the hinge, beveled at the lock only, beveled at the hinge and the lock. So let's take a look at some steel stiffened doors. Steel stiffened doors have been around forever, and Mesker offers steel stiffened doors as well. They offer it in their NVS, they offer it in their N series, but we're going to see some pretty strange things whenever we're looking at the NVS continuously welded polycore, the NVS steel stiffened core, the standard seam, and then the standard seam steel stiffened. So blue represents the NVS continuously welded polycore. Red is the same thing but steel stiffened. Green is your standard seam steel stiffened core, and then your purple is your standard seam polycore. Now, if you look at the NVS continuously welded polycore, which we'll talk about more in just a second, but the NVS exceeds deflection testing, what that is they take a door and put it into a frame, and then they test that door for twist. They put pounds of pressure at that door and purposely twist that opening, and they measure the deflection from the face of the frame to how far that door is pushed out. So if you look at the blue, that's showing over 1,000 pounds of pressure at their 14 gauge NVS model, and that is 1,000 pounds until it gets to 1/4 of an inch, inch and a quarter out. Your standard steel stiffened from the NVS is only doing it at 900. The standard seam purple can only go up to 350, and then your standard steel stiffened door is just over 350 pounds. And so what that means is, with that deflection, you know, if you push that door out, your standard steel stiffened door is going to push that 1 1/4 inch out, which is at the point of failure for your door. And then once it goes back into close mode, it's still going to be 1/8 of an inch out, and it'll be 1/8 of an inch out forever. Whereas we've seen with the NVS, standard NVS, not steel stiffened, that can hold over 1,000 pounds of pressure at their 14 gauge. And whenever it's recoiled, it's only out of 1/32 of an inch. Unbelievable ability, with only one thing that's different on the door, and that is this right here. The NVS offers an edge seam that's continuously welded vertically down the edge, and what it does is it provides a situation where that door has now become stronger because it's an entire unit, as compared to NVS that has steel stiffening, standard steel stiffening, or a standard door. So to put that into a broad perspective, the NVS, which is fully continuously welded, is 3 times stronger than a standard hollow metal door. It has smooth faces. It doesn't. It's not like your seamless edge steel stiffened door, your seamless edge standard door, where you have a seam on the edge that's been filled or tack welded all the way down the field. What happens is you get those pop marks or cigarette burn marks. I just call them defects, where you have those holes blistered down that edge. A lot of manufacturers will fill the entire edge, sand it smooth, and what you have is, over time, if that door does come under pressure, that stuff is going to crack off, break, or if you have to modify that door for any reason, it's gonna fail, and you're going to end up having to rebondo, refill, and do all this work. Whereas with the NVS, it's continuously welded. You don't have to do that. The weight, which this is really surprising to me, the weight is about 80 to 90 pounds less than a standard steel stiffened door. So if you have a steel stiffened door that's weighing about 265 pounds, you can look at an NVS door that's non-steel stiffened, that's 3 times stronger, and it's only going to put about 125, 140 pounds of weight on you. So what does that mean? To me, coming from an installation background and things like that, what that means is my arms aren't going to be tired whenever I'm installing those doors. I'm going to be able to install more doors and be more productive over the long run when putting those doors in. And not only that, am I going to be able to be more productive, but I'm not going to make as many mistakes because I'm not tired and things like that. And once I've installed those doors, the pressure on that top hinge, where all the weight is, it's going to be gone. And the pressure on the closer to help you open that door and things like that, it's going to be gone. So you're going to have a situation where you can close your door better, you can swing your door better, you can open your door better, and you can provide a better door at a better price. So the NVS door is something that is very unique, and I would suggest getting with your local representation, getting some quotes on those doors, and putting them in job sites, because your customers will start thanking you for it. So as we talked about just now, we looked at the competition doors, and you see that seamed edge, and then you see how it's filled in later on. They have to fill that entire thing, because if you just fill in that small little crack and try to paint over it, you're still going to see that crack. If you look at the NVS door, they continuously weld it, and if you look at the very top of it, you can see that continuous weld. They sand it smooth, they finish it, and it's done, and it's done forever. So I'm not going to go through everything that's here, but basically the NVS is available in all the same stuff that you would get your standard door in, but one thing, you can't get it in 12 gauge. It's available in 18, 16, and 14. You can't get it in 20, you can't get it in 12. It's available in 6-panel, wood grain, steel stiffened, temperature rise, bullet resistant, multi-panel, Dutch door, WINDSTORM, cold roll, galvanized, non-handed. You have most of the options out there, but the two most notable things, 20 and 12 gauge, it's not there. So the wood grain, very important. The wood grain is, it looks like a wood door, but it's hollow metal, and it's able to be stained. There are factory finishing options available. I would suggest not doing that, but they are available. They're just expensive. This looks like it's one of those situations where it's going to be in a multifamily style opening, and you have the top lock, the bottom lock, and so you install this in multifamily. It's available in 20-minute rated or 90-minute rated, and it looks like a wood door. So you still get that aesthetically pleasing opening without having to compromise by just going with a wood door. So let's look at some temperature rise options here. The temperature rise door series, it's with that HDP polystyrene core. So if you look at the temperature rise or the heat transmission as tested by UL, their design is in conjunction with premium fiberboard core will keep the side of the door not exposed to fire below 250 degrees for 30 minutes. This is superior to the competition, which is 400 degrees, which can remove human skin if touched. So Mesker's temperature rise doors will keep the side of the door that's not exposed at a hot 250 degrees, but I mean, 250 degrees isn't going to melt your skin off when you touch it. So keep that in mind when thinking about temperature rise openings. Mesker's door keeps it at 250 degrees for 30 minutes, and that's very important. Let's take a look at some Dutch doors. Dutch doors are available also. They're available in the N series and the NVS series. And one thing to note here, the Dutch door shelf is optional. You can have it either factory applied or sent with the door. But if you get that shelf, it's only available in 20 minutes. And if you use if you use this as a fire rated opening, 20 minute or 90 minute, you have to have a constant latching bolt at the top leaf. If not, it will not meet NFPA 80 or 101. At the 90 minute rated opening, the Dutch door shelf is not available. Thermal performance, or their urethane core, and I switched up the temperature rise in the thermal, so I apologize for that. The temperature rise is your fiber board, which is typical in your fire rated openings. Thermal, which is going to be your R rated openings, is going to be the HDP urethane core. Be careful with the urethane core, because you want to make sure that it is HDP, or a declared product, because urethane by itself is not very good for nature. The HDP, however, is going to be a declared product. It's recycled material and things like that. It's not, say, healthy for the environment, but it's not putting anything back into the environment that's worse. So with their temperature or their thermal rise or the thermal performance option, they offer this in thermal break frames, weather stripping from the design hardware group. And it creates a sound thermal opening ready to battle the elements. Basically, they offer curved frames. They also offer a thermal break threshold at openings, and it creates a situation where you can provide a opening that lets the door stay cold on the outside if it's cold, or hot on the outside if it's hot, and cool on the inside. So it doesn't have all that release or transmission from your air conditioning unit, or it doesn't have all that that release of heat waves going through your building, which causes cooling costs and things like that. They offer bullet resistant doors. They offer it in level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is 38 caliber, small arms fire and things like that. Level 2 is up to a 357, and your level 3 is your super power 44 caliber resistance. They offer these up to 4 foot in width, 10 feet in height. We don't really worry about this too much in Colorado. They do have it in the eastern and the southeastern area, or portions of Colorado, but they do offer tornado or FEMA WINDSTORM certified openings. Check with me prior to ordering those, because if it's WINDSTORM certified, you have to order the entire assembly. This is something that I hope that we never have to deal with in Colorado, is hurricane assemblies. This is something that they offer. So if you do have projects that are on the west or east coast that do require hurricane certifications, we do offer those. So get with me and we can talk through those. So frame construction, I have a big sample of a frame. I'll run through these pretty quickly, but I really want to show you the sample, because that's where the meat of the whole thing is. So basically, standard 16 gauge is their standard. They offer 14, they offer 12. They do not offer 20 gauge. 20 gauge is going to be reserved for your timelies, your ready frames, and things like that. That's your 20 and 22 gauge. Their standard is cold rolled, and they also offer an A40 and an A60. They also do the 304 and the 316 stainless steel. Their design, and this is where I'm going to switch off now, is a 4-tab locking system. I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you everything that we're going to be talking about in this slideshow, and then we'll come back to it. But for now, I want to show you some of the cool things that we have here. And it's kind of embarrassing to have a hollow metal frame in your house, but we're hardware nerds, right? So let's take a look at this hollow metal frame. And I'm going to put this in my chair here so that way you can see it. But this is your hollow metal frame. It's a standard hollow metal frame. As you can see here, this right here is the miter cut. It's the design of most standard hollow metal frames, but we'll talk about frames in general. If you do not know about frames, we have the face here, the rabbet here, the stop, the soffit, and then it repeats itself on the back side. Now, what does all that mean? The face here is the aesthetic portion of the frame. It's where everybody's going to see it. And the rabbet is going to be the portion of the frame that is viewed from the door, as far as, there we go. It's going to be the portion of the door that the door fits into, the rabbet of the frame, or the rabbet hole, I guess. And then the stop is the portion of the frame where the door stops on. It's where the silencers reside. It's where your weather stripping, your smoke seal, things like that resides. And then your soffit right here, this is what helps project the width of the frame and create stability for both sides of the frame. And then the opposite side is the rest of it. But with hollow metal frames, you have a lot of different profiles and things like that. This one here is equal rabbet. And what that means is at the rabbet, which is the portion that the door fits into, is equal on this side and on the opposite side. You also could have a situation where it's called single rabbet, which is where the soffit extends all the way to the opposite face of the door. And so you have a face, and then you'll have a soffit, you'll have a stop, and then a rabbet. And a single rabbet frame, it's primarily known in wood frames, where you have just the one side, and then you have the single rabbet. But it's also in hollow metal frames where you want something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and you don't want the other side of the return. You also have something called unequal rabbet, where the soffit doesn't, the soffit isn't adjusted to match the rabbet, and so the rabbet on this side is 1 inch and 15/16. At an equal rabbet frame, the opposite side will also be 1 inch and 15/16. But on an unequal rabbet, one side is 1 inch and 15/16, and the opposite side could be 1 and 3/16. It doesn't matter because it's unequal rabbet. It just will go to their standard at that point. So keep that in mind. Check your specifications. Make sure that you know what the specifications are requiring, so that way you can provide what is required on a project. Now, something else that I want you guys to see are the reinforcements here. So if we take a look at these reinforcements, this is your 7-gauge reinforcement. It's welded on each end, and as you can see here, the tabs are universal. You see that? How they are located here, and what that does is it allows this tab can be used universally, to be either on this side or that side. It can be used for doors and things like that, and they provide that as standard. Something else that's pretty cool that you need to see is your foot clip. Every frame is going to be provided with a foot clip, and what this does is this allows you to anchor this to the floor. Also, something that's important are these things right here. These are called spreader bars, and a lot of people in the industry use these to install their hollow metal frames, and they think that this is a way to help make sure that their frames are square. So you'll go out to job sites and you'll see these things still on the opening. It's very important. Prior to installation, these things should be removed, and they're just tack welded on, and you can see they're pretty loose. They should be removed. And why should they be removed? Because they are not square. You may find a situation where you think that they're square, but I'm so sorry, but they aren't square. So what does that mean as far as installation is concerned? What that means is if you install those with your spreader bars, you'll create a situation where you have a frame that might be out of square, might be twisted, might be bowed, and once you install that door, you're going to find out really quickly why you should have removed the spreader bars. Now, that doesn't mean to remove those spreader bars as soon as you get the frames, because those are very important to make sure that they do not bend or bow or crack the head of the frame. So it is very important to keep those spreader bars on your door frame until it's installed, but those are just for shipping and storing only. They're not for installation. So now, that being said, let's go back and let's take a look at some of the slides. And if you have any questions, let me know. So they show the four tab locking system, and basically what that is, it allows the head of the frame to slip on top of the legs of the frame. Then you can curve them over and lock them into place, so that way they are always going to be true and tight whenever those miter corners are being put together. We talked about some of the profiles. I'll start looking at this now because this is pretty important. The drywall and masonry differences. If you look at a hollow metal frame, it has a return on it after the face, and what that is, it allows stability whenever that frame is installed against masonry block. And so I will, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'll stop sharing, and I want to show you what that looks like. So this right here is a profile for a masonry frame. And as you can see, here's the face. As it bends back over, there's only one bend here. And this means that it's masonry, and it sits flush with masonry block. Okay, whether you want it to sit flush here with masonry block, I mean, will depend on how you order it. But this portion right here will sit flush on the masonry block. If you order this in drywall, you'll have an extra return. You'll have an extra return going down right here. And that will provide you with that, with the ability to have that block or have that drywall whenever you slip it in behind the frame. It creates kind of a rigid point where it doesn't pull back. So that being said, now we can go back. So we've talked about masonry. We've talked about drywall. There's also pocket door frames. And a pocket door frame is basically a frame, and I'll make it as easy as possible. If you cut the soffit, the return, or the stop off, if you cut the stop and the soffit off on both sides of the frame, you'll be left with a cavity. That cavity can be used as a pocket door, right? And you know, there's more to it than just that, but the basics of it is we offer pocket door frames, so there's a void in the middle of the frame so a pocket door can slide in and out of. We also offer curved frames, thermal break frames, which we talked about. You can see it on the bottom right, the curved frame. And what that is it's a frame where at the stop, there's a cut or a cavity placed into that, that space. So that way you can put in or curve in some weatherization. And we also have hospital stops. Hospital stops are pretty unique. They allow for hospital staff to be able to mop and clean around the hollow metal frame and get all the bacteria up instead of having to work around and leave those small corners that return creates. So what's different about Mesker as compared to some of the others? Mesker has sharp, crisp corners that are tight. So at their corners, they're extremely tight. I believe the bend is at a 1/16 of an inch rounded, whereas other manufacturers are at an 1/8 inch round. So other manufacturers, you're going to see a rounded corner, and with Mesker, it's going to be sharp and tight. So each bend is going to be really tight and smooth. So their components, we talked about earlier, they're going to be 7 gauge on your reinforcements, but they also offer plaster guards and things like that. They're offered on as standard on all of their hollow metal frames unless you specify something differently. And their anchors are pretty cool as well. They create their own anchors in-house. They offer wire anchors. They offer EW anchors that are welded in. They offer Z anchors. Z anchors are your steel stud anchor, and it looks like this, and it's formed in the shape of a Z. And what it is that you put it onto the inside of your frame, and you tack weld it on, or you screw it on, or you clip it on, and then on the back side, you clip it to your steel stud, and then you can screw it from the back side whenever you're putting your frame together. And they also offer a variety of different clip-ons, clip-on EWA, multi-purpose anchors, and things like that. We talked about the 7-gauge hinge reinforcement. Basically, with their hinges, they're 7-gauge material. So where you would really see this as an important tool is at your top hinge for heavier duty doors. Maximum load is at the top of the frame where the top hinge is, and the top hinge is holding all the weight, all the gravity of the door, and the bottom 2 hinges or the bottom 3 hinges, depending on the size of your door, they're typically used just as a pivot point. So it's very important for that top hinge to be reinforced, and so they use a 7-gauge reinforcement to enable to accomplish that. Something to talk about here: Mesker's standard locations. We didn't talk about it in the doors because I didn't want to just double up on it, but their locations are 5, 10, and equal. And what that means is from the top of the frame, not the top of the face, but the top of the inside of the frame. So at the rabbet down to 5 inches, that's where your top hinge is located. So top down is 5 inches. So top to the top is 5 inches, and then you have your 4.5 or your 5-inch hinge. And then from the bottom of the frame at the rabbet to the bottom of the bottom hinge is 10 inches. And then they equally distance the other space. Other manufacturers, I think Steelcraft is way different than that. Republic is way different than that. Pioneer is also way different than that. The only other manufacturer that uses the same method is Curry's. So it's very easy if you are Curry's. If you use Curry's quite a bit, you could use Mesker and same hinge locations. But also at the lock set, the lock is 5/16 of an inch different. Mesker uses 40 and 5/16 from the bottom of the frame to the center line of the strike, whereas Curry's uses 40 inches from the bottom of the frame to the center line of the strike. And I believe Steelcraft is like 38 and some odd inches. I can't remember. So they're masonry frames. We talked about these. We actually saw a sample of this, how they're made, how they're built, and things like that. So I won't go into that, but they are 3R rated. They're available in 12, 14, and 16 gauge. They're available in A40 and A60. I would suggest against, unless you're using it as an interior application in steel, I would suggest against using it as a cold rolled application, because what many people don't realize is masonry walls, they seem to suck in the moisture from the outside or suck in the moisture that's in the air, and they store that moisture into the block, and their block is not deteriorating, but everything around them that is steel will deteriorate. So if you use cold rolled steel on the interior, and you think that just because you're using masonry block that's sealed, it's not going to harm the frame, over time you'll see a difference. So let's talk about their drywall frames. Their drywall frames are the FDJ, is an AFTERSET frame, and what it is basically your hollow metal knockdown frame with compression anchors. Basically, it comes unassembled, and you're able to put in the head, and you put in the legs, and you put in the compression anchors on the legs to be able to install that frame. It's not like a ready frame or timely. It's more like a hollow metal frame that has not been welded. So if you have this frame that you have a customer that wants a standard hollow metal frame but does not want you to rip out drywall to put it in, you can use an FDJ AFTERSET frame, and you can put that frame in, bondo or fill over, or just leave open the compression anchors and be able to secure that opening and give the customer what they need. Flush face frames, or the FF series. This is a really cool frame, and it's really cool for this reason right here. This frame is offered without a face, and you might ask, why do that? Well, the main reason to do that is if you have a customer that is putting up an apartment building and they want their own custom casing, you can put in this the flush face frame, or the FF frame, and your customer will be able to install their own casing around that opening, and it looks aesthetically pleasing. And so this is primarily used in a situation such as that, where a customer is going to have a finished wall and they want to put in their own casing. Remodeling frame. This is going to be more similar to your timely and your ready frame, but with a 16 or 14 gauge steel. Still not 20 gauge or 18 gauge. This is going to give you the ability to install a frame and in a space that's going to allow you to put in your own casing. This is in a 6-piece kit, and so you install your flush frame kit first, which is your 3 pieces, and then you have 3 pieces of casing that is applied afterwards. And this is a really cool situation for apartment buildings and things like that, where you want to have you want to have a situation where you remodeled an opening and you're not slipping on over drywall. You want to put it butted up to finished drywall. This is going to be your piece for that. Now this is really cool. The ADJ adjustable jamb is they have 2 types available. One's the small and one is the large. And the small is for frames that are 4 5/8 up to 7 3/4. And what it does is the frame literally slides into itself. So the soffit is where you're going to see the difference. And as you want it bigger, you just slide it out. And as you slide it out, the soffit stays the same on one side, and the inch and 15/16 stays the same on one side, but the rabbet on the other side slides out to where you can make that. It's going to be an unequal jamb, but you can make it to where you can accommodate any size wall. And what's cool about that is you can literally have 2 skews for your frame legs in this adjustable series to accommodate for walls from 4 5/8 of an inch up to 11 1/4 inch. And that's just for 2 skews. And then for your 3rd skew, or I guess 4 skews, would be your heads. And you can make your heads 3, 4, 6, 8, whatever size you want to make your head. But it's a really cool situation. So thermal break frames, we talked about the thermal break doors, and we talked about thermal break frames, so I won't go into it very much, but I'll show you what they mean by thermal break frame. And this is it right here, where you have this kerf into the frame right here. You see that they took out and they put an extra bend in where the stomp is. And what that does is it allows for a kerf to be put into that opening, so that way you could have weatherization at that frame. And so at the very bottom, you'll have a thermal break weatherization saddle threshold that's thermally broken, and you'll have this kerf weather stripping. And what this does is it causes heat or cold transmission to be stopped at the frame and at the door. So Hollow Metal Express, while they offer all the custom metal products and things like that that we've talked about already, they also offer stainless steel and they offer lead line. So any place where you have hospitals or any place with radiation, dental offices and things like that, Hollow Metal Express will be able to get you those openings in a lot faster time than any other manufacturer that's out there. So just to recap some of that and go over what we've already looked at, I'll show you this quick video, and then we'll finish up.
Referring to this as the Hollow Metal Center of Excellence was not by accident. We want this to be the center of excellence for the products that are here, that are designed here, engineered here, and also become kind of a standard in industry. Center of excellence means excellence for the industry. We were 40,000 square feet in the past, so we've doubled the size of the facility. 316 days to get this project from start to finish. We put a lot of energy into the building, and now it's time for us to recover and really deliver to our customers. That's the important part. And the other important part is, quite frankly, I'm proud to work here. I'm proud to be a part of this facility, and I'm proud to be a part of this entire organization. On behalf of the Greater Phoenix Chamber, I want to congratulate you. Beautiful facility, great opportunities for growth here. 11 months ago, we were building doors and frames outside in the parking lot. And now we went from that to a new 97,000 square foot facility. And that's because all of the people that are here got involved and helped us out. So can I get a big round of applause for everybody here who helped out in that?
Our mission is based on the belief that people want to be carefree, and security is key to living an uncomplicated life. Therefore, we create and develop solutions and services that make life easier, create both security and comfort. In short, we make access in life smart and secure.
So something that's important here to note is not only are you getting quality and reliability from Mesker and what they've done for the past 156 years, but also you're getting the quality from Hollow Metal Express, and you back that up with the partnership that they have after being acquired by Dormakaba to create just this monster of a company that is pushing forward marketing and development and production skills and things like that, building new facilities to where they can now provide to you an even better service. So what are some of the specifiable differences in the door portion? SDI certified, it's the most important one. They use the 7-gauge high frequency hinge reinforcements, the NVS or the envious door, no vertical seam, and then the specification should always include a polystyrene insulated core, which is their standard, and not include a honeycomb core, which you hardly ever see anymore. Most places are providing polystyrene anyway. And with the frames, what's the specifiable difference there? Well, with the frames, they're also STI certified. Along with the doors, they're both they both have a water-based electrostatic baked-on rust inhibitive primer, which means that they are going to inhibit rust from going onto those frames. I will suggest that any place that you do modify, cut in, scratch, or damage those frames, I would put a rust inhibitive primer over the top of that, sand smooth, and prior to finished painting. The break form frames, meaning that the frames are tighter, have tighter break lines and things like that, which means that they're more aesthetically pleasing. They look better, they feel better, they act better, and they also have the 7-gauge hinge reinforcements. So that being said, I'm all done. Some of the questions that I received were about the kerfing. If the kerfing was provided with the hollow metal frames, I would say yes. Being able to be with the design hardware group, it gives them a very unique opportunity to be able to provide you with hollow metal and things like that. And so I think that that's very important, and that needs to be noted. Another question that we had was regarding Hollow Metal Express and Mesker, if they were provided and built with the same qualities and same standards in both factories. Yes. So Dormakaba put in a lot of work to be able to create two facilities that would perform and also provide door frames, not only on the East Coast or Central America, but also on the West Coast. And what that does is it creates a situation where the same quality, the same standards, the same material is being provided by both groups. Now, where you're going to find some differences in Hollow Metal Express is those guys are a custom hollow metal house. As you saw in the video, whenever they first started out, they were building hollow metal frames and doors out in the street outside. And now they're doing that in a 97,000 square foot facility. They have better products, they have better service, they have better reliability and better quality control. But where you're going to see a little bit of the difference is where you have to have some of those custom modifications and things like that. Hollow Metal Express is going to be able to provide those custom hollow metal welds and things like that. And so you're going to see some differences. It's not going to be done by robot, it's going to be done by hand. But they're going to use the same standards and the same quality as everybody else. Guys, that's all I have for you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to view this video. I know it's a little bit long. We're at an hour and 8 minutes, but some of the information that is in there is going to help not only you, but also your end user and be able to service their building a whole lot better. And I hope that you give this some time. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Like and subscribe to our YouTube. Go to our LinkedIn and subscribe there. And I'm going to send this link out. But if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to always send those out to me. Always ask questions. Always be engaged. So thank you so much for being involved. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you guys at our next Training Tuesday. I believe we're going to do an RCI class on the 11th, and then we're going to move into ACSI, and then we're going to have a special guest do some residential hardware for us to show off some of those locks. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, thank you.